Now, as a result of the economic system of capitalism, which includes United States regulated capitalism, poverty has not ended in the United States, and poverty will not end in the United States through capitalism because of the fact that capitalism, including United States regulated capitalism, enables capitalists to run roughshod over the poor and middle class, which they have done successfully in the United States for generations. Capitalism, including United States regulated capitalism, has not ended poverty in the United States. And capitalism has existed in the United States since the beginning of the United States. Now, what capitalism has done in the United States is increase the gap between the rich and poor through the exploitation and oppression of the workers for the benefit of the capitalists, along with the passing of legislation lobbied for by corporate lobbyists, which helps the capitalists in their efforts to exploit and oppress the workers. This is the reason campaign finance reform and lobby reform must become a reality in the United States. As I stated earlier, capitalism is about the exploitation and oppression of people, as history proves. Capitalists benefited exponentially from the transatlantic slave trade, as enslaved Africans were forced to provide their labor for the benefit of capitalists. In the United States, in the South, one of the major crops was cotton, and that cotton was picked by slaves. The Southern economy was built on cotton, as it came to be called King Cotton. The Southern plantations flourished as a direct result of the economic system of capitalism that generated massive amounts of wealth for the plantation owners off of the backs of slaves. Merriam-Webster's online dictionary defines imperialism as, definition number 1, the policy, practice, or advocacy of extending the power and dominion of a nation, especially by direct territorial acquisitions or by gaining indirect control over the political or economic life of other areas. Broadly, the extension or imposition of power, authority, or influence. Definition number 2, imperial government, power, or authority, an imperial system. Collins' online dictionary defines imperialism as a system in which a rich and powerful country controls other countries, or a desire for control over other countries. Merriam-Webster's online dictionary in definition 1A defines colonialism as domination of a people or area by a foreign state or nation, the practice of extending and maintaining a nation's political and economic control over another people or area. Collins' online dictionary defines colonialism as the practice by which a powerful country directly controls less powerful countries and uses their resources to increase its own power and wealth. Now, both online dictionaries correctly define imperialism and colonialism. Both imperialism and colonialism are directly connected to capitalism throughout the history of the world, as capitalism is a system that exploits and oppresses people. European imperialism and colonialism through capitalism and for capitalism resulted in the colonizing of areas and the stealing of their precious resources. Whether you're talking about North America, Africa, India, or Australia, and the list goes on, indigenous peoples throughout the world were victims of imperialism and colonialism through capitalism and for capitalism. One doesn't have to look far to find the victims. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain funded the voyage of Christopher Columbus in his quest for the gold and spices of the East Indies, although Columbus did not land in the East Indies. Columbus landed on an island in the Caribbean, and the Spaniards stole gold and enslaved indigenous people of the area. And large numbers of indigenous people were murdered and caught disease, ultimately dying from disease as well. And in what is now known as the United States, the indigenous people experienced horrific acts of violence perpetrated against them. And as I stated earlier, capitalists benefited exponentially from the transatlantic slave trade, as enslaved Africans were forced to provide their labor for the benefit of capitalists, and large numbers of Africans died as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, concerning the foothold capitalism gained in the land now known as the United States, the Virginia Company of London, through shareholders, funded the establishment of the first permanent colony in Jamestown, Virginia. In 1618, the Virginia Company established a head right system in order to increase immigration to North America. Their goal was to get as many Europeans as possible to immigrate to the so-called New World, which was already inhabited by millions of Native Americans back when the first European expeditions to the so-called New World began. The Library of Virginia at www.lva.virginia.gov, in a section addressing the head right system, states the following. In order to encourage immigration into the colony, the Virginia Company, meeting in a quarter court held on 18 November 1618, passed a body of laws called Orders and Constitutions, which came to be considered the Great Charter of Privileges, Orders, and Laws of the colony. Among these laws was a provision that any person who settled in Virginia or paid for the transportation expenses of another person who settled in Virginia should be entitled to receive 50 acres of land for each immigrant. The right to receive 50 acres per person or per head was called a head right. Now, European immigration began, and European immigration increase was sought through the head right system. And although the land was already inhabited by millions of Native Americans when the Europeans arrived, capitalism, imperialism, colonialism were the driving factors and have always been the driving factors. Some nation relationships started as trading relationships that developed into one nation conquering the other, and then the conquering nation exploited and oppressed the people of the nation they conquered. And they did this for one reason: capitalism. If there was nothing of substantive value to be gained through nations stealing from others and exploiting and oppressing the people they stole from, then there would be no historical records of imperialism and colonialism. And as is clearly shown, there are vast records of imperialism and colonialism which are directly connected to capitalism. We'll stop here for today, and we'll pick it up in the next video.